I had given up on God as well.
Oh,
But um, I was dealing with suicide. I had attempted to kill myself
mm.
after the divorce, or when she left, or during the divorce. I went to I went to take my life, and the most miraculous thing I've ever encountered happened.
Welcome to Birthing Purpose with Lana. Today we have Gene and Shannon Mason. They are motivational speakers, relationship mentors, and entrepreneurs. They are the founders of Still I Rise organization for broken, abused, and traumatized men due to domestic violence. In addition, they are authors of several books. They're also musicians and producers of some great jazz music. We'll get into that a little bit later, but give them a great welcome, you all.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad that you were able to come here and talk about this sensitive topic that uh, people aren't talking a lot about. We know about it, but not to the degree. I actually had to go and do a little research to prepare for this interview, and I feel like more knowledgeable now. And I am a boy mom. I'm a mom boy, so I have a special love for men, and I understand that a lot of the men, old and young, are not always treated fairly, and there is a double standard for a whole lot of things. That's just how this world is. So I thank you for being vulnerable and coming and sharing your story, so that you can be a blessing to many people. So thank you for
Thank
your
you for
being
having us.
brave. Yes. I want to start off sharing some statistics that many people may not know about domestic violence towards men. The Center for Social Justice, as of June 22, says 1/3 of domestic abuse victims are men. 1 out of 4 of these men are gay, 1 out of 3 are bisexual, and 3 in 10 are heterosexual. 757,000 men reported abuse in 2020. There are 238 refugee spaces for domestic violence abuse, but only 58 are committed to supporting men. It's noted that the female helpline said that they don't have funding. That was her response when men have called. We don't have the money. We don't have the funding. Another study by Bristol University details how male victims seldom get asked about their domestic relations by health professionals. And the doctors pretty much dismiss any bruises or welts as no cause for concern. On an average, one man is murdered by his partner every day in the U.S. And this was from the Shelter of House Center. They did the survey, and men are victims in 6% of the murder suicide cases. And 1 out of 6 and 7 men will be a victim of domestic violence abuse. That's terrible. That's terrible. And I didn't know the numbers were that great. And that's a shame. Any abuse against anybody is a problem. And so I'm very happy that you guys are pioneering the solution for this. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But those numbers have gone up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 6 out of 10. What you read was 4 out of 10, but it is actually 6 out of 10 as of last year.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
the numbers are increasing, and it's not that the numbers are increasing; it's just that the men are coming forward.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
good. That's good. That's good. And I know when I read a lot of the barriers to men coming forth about this, a lot of it is disbelief. Like they don't, there's a shame, there's an embarrassment about being abused. There's disbelief, from their loved ones or even law enforcement. They don't believe that men could be abused. And I've even read where they come on the scene and the way they handle it is different. A woman is yelling, waving a knife, I'm mad, and they'll tell her, oh, calm down and go lay down and go to sleep. But if they came to the scene and if a man was waving a knife, he'd be in handcuffs, taken off immediately. Right. So law enforcement don't even handle it the same. Mm. Some have even come up and seen a woman, whatever, and then the man is complaining and they drive off. Literally, people have reported that. Like the men don't even want to get involved. I mean, the police, like law enforcement. So there's this lack of empathy towards men. And so I'm glad that men are coming forth more. And they're trying to get the legislation to change, because there's even the Violence Against Women Act. But where's the Violence Against Men Act? There is none.
There is none. You get more law. There are more laws and more protection for dogs, for animals, than there are for men.
Yeah. So when women go to get restraining orders or protection orders against men, 91% of those are granted, but only 25% of them are granted for men.
You know what? I didn't even experience that much. I had a restraining order against her, and I called the police when she broke it. She had to travel 10 minutes, 15 minutes outside of town to come to the house. And when I called the police to come get her because she had broken a restraining order, they actually came and was going to arrest me while she stood on the porch.
Let's get back to the beginning of your story as a former domestic violence abuse victim. Okay. Just give us the stage. Just give us the background of how.
Okay. Well, to set the stage, I was married to my high school sweetheart. She gave me 2 children. I got married at the age of 19. She was 17. And after my second daughter turned 3 months old, she was raped and killed. And I kind of lost it. I couldn't raise my daughters. Well, I take that back. I was still trying to raise my daughters. But their godparents turned me in and said that they suspected that I had touched my daughters. And so they investigated and found that they just hadn't been cleaned. I didn't want to clean the areas. So I was, here's your rag here. I didn't know, and so after that, my mother took my daughters, and she was like, baby, get on your feet and woody woo, come get the kids, this, that, and the other. And I did. God blessed me to I woke up March 15, 1988. That was the day I woke up. She was killed September 17th, 1987. And so got the houses and everything, but got the car. God blessed me with the house and the car, and I got my children back. I had a nanny, and I met someone, and thought they were really cool. They acted really cool towards the kids, and they acted like they liked me, and so I married them. And it was hellfire and brimstone. And we would get into it, and the police would be called, and I would go to jail, and I would leave. I would walk away, only to be attacked from behind. And I still carry the scars after 32, 33 years. I still carry the scars of those attacks on my body. And so but because of the loss, the traumatic loss from the first family, she was pregnant, and I didn't want to lose a second family. And so I was willing to do whatever it took. My advice was to stay in there, hang in there. That's just the way women are. They're all crazy. It don't matter which one you got. You just got a piece of the pie, and it was the same pie. Yeah. And so I just stuck with it. And going to jail, getting out for domestic violence. And they would come and say, well, we got to take somebody. You know, that's the law. We got to take somebody. And I knew she couldn't handle it. So there was a couple of times I said, all right, well, just take me in. And I went, and there was no retaliation on my part till after the third time when I went. And then the third time when I got out, and I told her, I said, I ain't going for free no more. If you call the police, they coming because I'm going. I said, but I'm not going for free. And she didn't call them for a long time after that.
Oh.
A long time after that.
Oh, okay. So people will do what you allow them to get away with, basically.
Well,
she saw it was working. It was a manipulation tactic. I feel like it was a way to control you, manipulate you, get her way. But once she saw you were getting ready to put your foot down and, it's not going to go down the way it's been going down, she stopped.
Yeah, I never thought about that. It was just, I didn't see it as manipulation. I didn't see it as, I was just too busy in survival mode, but I had endured, and my family thought I was being abusive because I had been going to jail, and so the pastor thought I was abusive, and funny thing is, there was a young man at church who his wife literally beat him up. And the pastor called me and asked me if I would talk to him. And I said, why? He said, well, kind of help him turn things around, maybe be more assertive towards his wife, because he thought I was assertive. But the truth was, I wasn't at all.
So when did the truth come out? When finally did the truth come out where the family realized you're the one that was being abused? And
a couple of years ago, 30 something years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Because how did they find out the truth? Because it took a long time. And why so long?
Yeah.
So when we got married, I think that our journey of our marriage is what brought out the truth. People already have pegged it to, matter of fact, the ex-wife and the daughter reached out to me and told me, don't marry him. He's abusive and all these things. And at the time, I had a friend that was she worked for a district attorney. She was paralegal at the time. And she had wanted to know about our story as well, because she was doing a book on domestic violence. And so I had her research everything. And sure enough, there was like 27 restraining orders that was set up against him, but they were falsely set up. She did the background, and she even went to the point of, she reached out to them and she said, this is my friend. And before she married him, then I need to know the truth. and there's some stuff that's hidden that y'all not telling me. And so the more she dug, the more she found out all the accusations were lies. And so so when she started to dig, then they hit her back and they said, well, I'm just going to drop it. We're not going to, my mom told me to drop it and not talk about it no more. So that's when I knew, okay, something's not right. And so people had already kind of put our marriage is not going to last past a year, or not going to last past 2. So then they start seeing 2 and they start putting things together like, well, okay, well, he's not beating her. And at the time, I had 4 boys and 1 girl.
The accusations was I raped her and beat her.
Right. So they're watching me now. And so then they're seeing, okay, well, there's no bruises. Okay, wait, they're getting along. He's smiling. They're enjoying their relationship. And then, the accusations of raping the daughters. So now they're watching him because I have 4 boys and 1 girl. So they're watching him with my daughter, and they're like peas in the pot, these 2. And so it didn't make sense. And so then that's when they started raising an eyebrow of,
well, they started coming around.
Yeah, they start coming around, and it's like, okay, well,
I don't know if it was out of curiosity or, we do music. And so we have
the first CD came out.
We had them come in and do some,
one of them,
do some vocals. And while she was here, she began to inquire. She was like, this doesn't make sense. What's the real story? And when she heard the real story, she cried.
She said, everybody thought you did it.
Who is she?
A cousin of mine.
Oh, a cousin. Okay.
Yeah.
And she went back. Apparently, she went back and told the other cousins. Even my son, after several years, called and said, "Hey, man, something's not adding up." He said, "I know you to be a good fighter." He said, "Mom's claim is that you raped her and beat her, but I never seen her bruised. I never seen her." He said, her face was never bruised. You never hit her in the face. Or he said, so it doesn't make sense to me because I've seen you fight. I mean, at that time I had gotten jumped several times up in Alaska. And so it didn't work out well for them. Let's just say it that way. But so my son was like, Dad, this doesn't make sense. And so he said, I feel like I've been groomed to hate you all my life. And so my children were weaponized. And
has anybody confronted her about all the lies and all the false allegations? The kids either saying, "Hey, Mom, why did you lie on Dad all these years?"
No, it's so funny, and I must say, when they divorced, she went back to her maiden name. She took her maiden name back. Well, after we got married, and I think it was about the third year, I think, of our marriage, and we did the first CD, and all my kids were athletes, so we're going we're doing all kind of sporting events. One of them plays professional ball, and so one day we were sitting there, and I don't know how I came across the name, and I looked, and I said, "Babe," he said, "What?" I said, "I think she put your last name back on Facebook." He goes, "Shut up. Look, sure enough, she took the last name back."
So we raped her. Now she wants your last name.
So I told one of the kids, I said, now, if Dad raped and beat somebody, would they really take the last name of their abuser? And they said
no. And one of them said, we were asking the same thing, and she would never answer the question. Like, why did you take the last name back if Dad did all these things to you? She could never answer it. So we never confront. We're the type that let the chips fall. How they fall, you reap what you sow, because it will come full circle.
No, I want to confront.
He wanted to, but he's better. He did. He wanted jail.
I think the kids for sure should have. Well, they did. They asked if they did confront. If
they asked me, I don't know if they confronted her, but they asked me.
They asked him a lot.
They asked me a lot of the questions, and I have a son who constantly is asking me questions. because of what he is constantly seeing. I had a son who was always asking me, Dad, will you please tell Mom to stop calling me faggot? And it was just, and
abuse trickled down to the children as well. She's just an abusive individual, period. And nobody is really calling her out on her mess, it seems like. And so the cycle is going to continue with her because she's nobody's calling her out. And I'm surprised.
Well, one of them is one of the sons. He's very protective of his dad.
Okay.
And
I don't know if he's calling her out. I think his thing is, I love you, Dad, but I love Mom too.
But he won't let him talk about his dad.
He won't let him. He
won't let him talk.
He won't let him talk about him.
He'll go off.
Yeah.
He won't let him talk about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys in the same city? Everybody's in the same city still together?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
No. It wasn't big enough for all of us.
Mm-mm.
So I left.
It won't work here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You got that. You got me right there. Right?
Right. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Your family what? Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
And my family's not happy now that they know the truth.
Yeah, and they should be apologizing to you. Let's talk about a little bit of the myths around domestic violence against men. The first myth is men can't be victims. Men are not real men if they can't take it. There's another myth that men don't have access to resources for help. That's not true. I Googled and there are tons of help out there now. Maybe once upon a time it wasn't, but there are a lot now. Men who are gay or bisexual will bring shame to the LGBTQ community. So they'll just deal with it because they don't want people to say, oh, look at those gays. Oh, that's what they do. They just get together and beat each other up. Did you find in your journey, because I know you did talk about going to counseling and it didn't help you. And I read that where a lot of men said that formal resources weren't that helpful. It was the informal resources that were more helpful, like informal, like friends and family were more helpful than the professional resources, whether it be, law or counseling and things like that. So can you speak to that?
During the time I was going through, there was nothing. The church, I went to several churches and asked them if they would help me, and all of them but one refused to counsel me. And I had been there years, faithful as a musician, tithe payer. I did all that years, and they refused to counsel me. I ran across a guy. His name was Art Matthias, and he had a counseling organization, and he and his organization are the only ones that touched me, and they did it for free. They didn't charge me. They blessed me. They helped me, and I could not have made it. I could not have made it without them.
What's the name of the organization?
His name is Art Matthias.
Shout him out.
Art Matthias, Freedom.
I can see the book.
I see the book too.
Yeah, it's Freedom something.
But it's Art Matthias, and he's great guy, great team, great organization. I thank God for them. I ain't no telling what would have happened.
How did they help you?
They gave me counseling. They gave me books. And they gave me access to the counselors at any given time. I could call them and discuss or talk or cry, whatever I wanted to do.
What solutions did they give you to be able to be free?
At that time, it wasn't that they gave me solutions towards the marriage or the divorce. They just gave me solutions as to my walk with God, which was what I needed, because I even felt like he had abandoned me, through that whole scenario. And so that was what kept me grounded. They didn't, well, she's wrong, and they didn't do none of that. It was
Why
okay.
not? It is wrong.
Because, well,
why not? It's wrong.
I don't know, but it was as if they were more about my core beliefs, which was what I needed, because I had given up on God as well. Oh. But I was dealing with suicide. I had attempted to kill myself after the divorce, or when she left, or during the divorce. I went to take my life, and the most miraculous thing I've ever encountered happened, and I went to put it in my mouth, and I remembered the story of a guy who had epilepsy, and when he shot himself, it severed a nerve, which allowed him to live, but he didn't have epilepsy anymore.
Wow.
And so I thought I did not want to take the risk of living through some of this traumatizing. So I went to put in my temple, and when I did that, prior to that, I don't think I had ever heard people say, God said, God spoke, God did it. Prior to that, that was not my case. But that day, I remember hearing in an audible voice, God say that if I would, that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And it startled me. And at that exact moment, a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a long time, who didn't live far from me, he walked into my bedroom and asked me for the gun. And it just freaked me out. It freaked me out.
God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly all we can ask or imagine. God is.
So that was what I dealt with, and that was the thing that they dealt with me, Art Matthias, them. But no church that knew us, that we attended 13 years, 10 years, 5 years, none of them would touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Well, luckily for the viewers, there are plenty of people out there now that are willing to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I found an organization called helpguide.org. Helpguide.org. And there's plenty. If you Google help for male domestic violence victims, there are tons of help out there now. Thank God for people like you who've written books and are speaking up about it more. Things are beginning to change. Now, I don't see any legislation. I'm sure there is. I didn't find any. Are you guys looking to get something going in that area? Ready to get politics and get some legislation together?
I am looking for anybody that will come aboard, come alongside, help do and undo the buffoonery, because it's not fair. And men are experiencing domestic violence on so many levels, and most of them don't even know it, because they watch their moms do it. They watch their dads go through it. And I was talking to a young man. I have talked to men as when I say men, I mean from all spectrums of the game, from motorcycle gangs to pastors, and whose wives didn't want to sleep with them. Hey man, that's abuse. They didn't even know that was you're being abused.
Yeah.
That's sexual abuse.
That's
some and which sends them into a spiral.
Yes.
So now what you have denied him physically has now become emotional.
Yes.
And if he's not careful, it can become a spiritual abuse, because now he's looking at God. Hey God, your word says this. So now he's doubting God and God's word and God's power in his own life. You know what I'm saying? So now now we've gone from physical to emotional to spiritual, and it can go from, it can spiral on to financial and
yeah, because yeah, no, for sure. So reasons why men stay. It says shame, denial. They want to keep the family together, the children. They really love the person. Fear of the unknown, like you said, finance, or they don't want to pay child support, or they may need their partner for something, whether it be the business or they need them like for ministry. They need them, so they'll stay and endure it because I need you. They also have perfect distractions. Whereas, okay, I've got this job where I'm traveling a lot. So when I come home, I get a little bit of abuse, but then I'm out. So that's how they're able to stay and endure it, because they have perfect distractions, whether it be a job, whether it be whatever. So yeah, I think that when we go through these things, people love to blame God, but God never said stay and be abused. Like, we have to work the word. We have to do what the word says. I don't see, and people get mad at God. No, God didn't say stay in no abusive relationship. God didn't say that. And so why do we get mad at God when we're in this? And, and it takes two. You may do your part, but that other person has to submit to God. And if they don't want to submit to God, there's scriptures for that to say, come on out, so why do we get mad at God?
We get mad at God because it's first of all, it's a way out. It's an excuse.
Thank you.
But God, I saw the red flags and I ignored them.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk about red flags. Can you share some of them?
Red flags was she would come into town. We didn't live in the same city. She would come into town, stay for a week and leave. And when she did, I couldn't find her. There were times I couldn't find her. And when she did move into town, she would stay for a month or 2 or 3 months and then leave and be gone for 3 months. So she'd stay a month and be gone for 3 months. She'd go back home. And I was floored at that, and that was after we got married. So it was like, man, you're always gone and always had a ticket. Every time she came, she'd have a round trip ticket. And I'm like, what are you doing with a round trip ticket? We married, and so it was like there was red flags, and I would question the behavior, and it would start fights, and she would break because when my house, I had a house and a brand new car, brand new house, fully furnished, beautifully furnished, if I should say. And she would break my stuff.
Were there red flags before you got married? To say,
in my heart, there was a red flag. In my heart, there was a red flag, but it didn't make sense, so I went past it.
And God talked to me about that. There's a scripture talks about peace is the umpire of your soul. Like the peace. If you don't have peace, don't move forward. And so many times I've moved forward because I didn't understand it. I want understanding. I want clarity as to why I don't have peace. And the Holy Spirit was like, I gave you a unction. Like Holy Spirit, like I let you feel no peace. That's all you need is the fact that you don't have peace. You don't need all the answers. If I don't give you the comfort in anything, that's it. But if but if I didn't have all the answers, then I'm like, well, I don't understand why I don't feel peace. I'm moving forward. And then I'm like, but God is like, you need to be obedient. I'm making you feel this way for a reason. And that's hard. Because
obedience doesn't always come with understanding. Yeah, right.
And he's training me like, girl, just trust me. I'm not going to answer all this. Just, you don't feel good. That's it. Don't go no further. It's all right. Yes.
Yeah.
So as a wife, Shannon,
Yes.
Let's keep it real. You meet this man and all this, that's a red flag.
Yes. I moved here to Texas. I was actually going through a divorce myself.
Okay.
And came here with my four kids. One was in college. We have five. One's in college. And I didn't know anyone. And so my spiritual mom out of Tulsa had a spiritual daughter here. And so she introduced us, and she was kind of helping me here. And so she says, so one day she called me and she said, Shannon, she says, I got something for you. So I said, okay. So usually, you know, she'll bring like sheets or from her job, just things to help me.
Things that she needed.
For my apartment.
Things that she needed.
So listen, so I'm sitting there, I'm in a bonnet and my pajamas. And
she brings me.
The door, the knock at the door. Well, I opened the door. Don't even do that. My spiritual mom, his cousin, and her mom, and another lady, and then laying up against the wall with his foot up against the wall.
Oh, you remember that?
I know exactly where you were.
She was checking me out.
And when he was standing up against the wall, literally my spirit leaped, and I said, "The devil is a lie."
Oh, you tried to fight them. You tried to fight it.
That was a green flag.
I said, "The devil is a lie," right? So they come in. So my spiritual mom had been. We were talking. So we were all sitting in the kind of living room area. He was sitting behind, just back up against the wall.
Oh.
I know exactly where you were.
Oh,
I know exactly what you had on. You had on all white. Ooh. So
that's the wedding color. No.
So we were talking, and they were telling me, and I remember telling my spiritual mom the next day she called and we talked, and she didn't tell me all his story. And I said, you know, it's funny. I said, the woman who marries him and love him to the core of who he is, I said, he'll try to give her the world. I said, but it ain't me. And we laughed. So here we are married. So, you know, it was,
okay, she said I was a red flag. What?
So let me get to that part there. Thank you. So as I started to hear his story and about men being abused, I had never heard like you. I never heard it. I knew it was more women. So that kind of put an but at the same time, I kept looking. It was like God had me look past this and to who he really is. And that's the part that kind of kept me there. And so when my friend, but at the same time, I had red flags because there was times he'd flare up and I would be like, well, wait a minute. Wait, whoa. I you know, or like if we get into a argument, it would be so aggressive. And so I would be like, okay, wait a minute, hold up. So then that's when I started to understand triggers. And he wasn't abusive as far as like putting your hands on or verbal. It was none of that. It was just, it's kind of like the triggers were so.
No, I'm just aggressive. I'm an aggressive person.
It's an aggressive trigger. It was.
No, okay. I'm an aggressive person.
It was an aggressive trigger. So I'm telling my story. So, but but I just kept going. I just kept saying, okay, God, who is he? Okay, God, who is he? Who is he? What is this about? And so that's how I was able to stay there. And so then
aggressive and abusive is different. Yes.
Yes, okay. It is. Mm-hmm. So when the daughter reached out, that was like my second red flag. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so let me, he saw the difference. I started to kind of change and he was like, what's wrong? And I told him what happened. But then when my friend did the research and dug up the truth, I was like, okay. And it was like right before we was about to get married. Cause I put on my track shoes and I was like, okay, wait, hold on. Now the child reached out to me but when she dug up the information, I was like, okay, we can go through this. But it was, he told me one day, he said, the abuser No, the abuse became the abuser, not how did you say it? When we were talking about the triggers, they were so, because the triggers were just so back to back in the beginning.
No, they weren't back to back. You just kept hitting them. You just kept hitting the triggers.
I didn't know it was not. No, but you know what?
No. She was like, well, what's this one? And what's this one? And what's this? And what's this? And it's like,
no, and that's not how it was. But yeah, the truth, but they seemed like they were like this. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, Jesus, where you at for me? Because this is.
So did you get the therapy before you guys got married or after you guys got married, sir? Gene?
Before.
Oh, good.
It was way before. It was way before.
But you were still being triggered. So at some point did you say, gosh, I'm still so triggered. I
didn't know I was triggered. Oh. I didn't know that's what she was. I was just
trigger happy.
Black people, boy, you can't take them nowhere. But I'm the one you got to watch. Okay. So I didn't know this until one day I was driving. I was at work. I was driving, coming from Louisiana. And I'll never forget, I was doing 80 miles an hour, maybe 90, in a truck. And she and I was just, we had been bumping heads, and now I'm headed home. And I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm crying. I'm driving 90 miles an hour and I'm crying. And I scream out, God, what is really going on? And I can barely see the road because of these tears. I mean, I'm crying. And just that second, I look up and see a sign, and it says Colfax. No arrows, no next exit, just Colfax. And immediately I understood what God was saying. The street that my first wife was killed on was called Colfax.
Wow.
That's where that's
so when I saw that, wow. I was already crying. But when I saw that, I just released. I don't know how that truck stayed on the road. I don't know. It was just.
And I think right after that, we went to Denver. And I said to him, have you ever been back to her gravesite? And he says, I don't even know where it is. And so I told him, I said, I need you to go to her gravesite, and I need you to lay there, and I need you to talk to her, and I need you to just cry.
Okay, let it go. So he was healing. So I was thinking the triggers were from the abuse, but you had additional issues that you had never dealt with, and that was the loss of your
friend. And that's why I wanted to tell you that, because that was the real groundwork.
Right. It needed to be done.
Yeah, and the stuff that was built on top of that
made it worse.
The abuse that was built on top of the loss and the pain.
Because if you had dealt with that loss and pain from the first wife, you wouldn't have been so hungry and thirsty to get with this abusive, just anything, any piece of anything to do just to fill this void.
Yes. So when he went back, I stayed at the time. We staying with the oldest daughter, and I stayed there with her. And he went to the gravesite. He was gone for about 3 hours, and he just let it all out. So that started the process of the healing. That was the ground, and then the groundwork. But I mean, it was so piled up because you have to understand that the second wife, it was 20-something years, 23 years of abuse. So it wasn't like 5, and then it's 23. So you've got 23 years of triggers, and I mean, from the smallest thing to unraveling. Like at the time, when he would tell me his story, and he would say she would never wear makeup, but then all of a sudden when she go out, she's all made up. Well, I like to make up. I like to dress up. So because of that trigger, I stopped wearing makeup. I was like, okay, because I'm trying to, you know, help him through this. So, and then the moment I did, it was like, where you going? And I was like, okay, I'm going to get gradually back into because what happened is I saw myself starting to lose me.
I was hearing that. Mm-hmm.
I was starting to slow, and I didn't know that's what I was doing. I was just trying to be mindful of the triggers to the point I started losing me, and even down to gaining weight, and you name it, it's just started happening. So I was like, so here now I'm going through things. And so when I started to say, okay, let me gradually go back into wanting to wear makeup, it was a trigger. And so we went toe to toe about it. And it was like, I'm not.
No, we didn't.
Oh, yes, we did. I'm like, yeah, we did. We did. But God, I'm like, I'm not, I'm trying to find me again. So anyway, God had to tell me one day, he said, it looks like you're going down the same road.
This is my story.
Oh, okay.
That's my
okay, I'll let you tell that story.
Yeah. No. So.
But wait, let me just say something really quick. But this is why you wrote a book called The Process.
It's like process transitioning to the original you. It was like rediscovering yourself, right? So in the midst of this, I'm having to rediscover me because I lost me.
Okay, got it.
Because like I said, I came out of, and mine wasn't, he said it was abusive.
Oh my gosh. He got triggers too.
I know. And you know, I was going to ask that.
Don't let her fool you. Don't let her fool you. Yeah, don't let her fool you. Her laundry wasn't clean. It was dirty. She had some dirty laundry.
No. Mine was this. I didn't look at it as an abuse till he told me.
Yeah.
He never yelled at me. Never called me out my name. We never fought. Because when you say abuse, that's what you think of. When you say abuse, everything that TV show is a man beating a woman, a man cheating on a woman, a man neglecting a woman. So mine was he just wouldn't keep a job. And we hold on. Mine was he wouldn't keep a job and we just kept moving. Right. And I didn't feel the security of support. Does that make sense?
Oh, I got it.
And it wasn't. So in my eyes, I didn't see abuse. Because he wasn't hitting, he wasn't beating me, he wasn't calling me out of my name, he wasn't running around.
Okay.
So
but what was he doing? Because that's the abuse, the manipulation, the
not keeping a job.
No, the emotional.
Oh, emotional.
Spiritual.
But I didn't. But again, I didn't see that as
financial.
I didn't see that as an abuse. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we were labeled as abuse, as beating. You just looked at it as a typical issues in your marriage. And even when we were going to church and we were having counseling, it's the typical what marriage people go through.
Right. I get it.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why. And then you got the Bible. There was no, based off the Bible, there was no room for divorce because he wasn't running around. He wasn't beating me. He wasn't doing this. So I'm going by the Bible. There was no room for divorce.
Gotcha.
So here I'm coming out of my situation and going into this. I didn't have time to really rediscover me. So now I'm going in here, helping him through his, and I started to lose myself. So the book was more about rediscovering who I was.
I got it. So you guys, we're healing for each other in a sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He was that stability that I never knew. Me and my kids moved every 6 months to a year for almost 16 years.
Wow.
So he was the stability that I never knew. He'd hold it down. He ain't afraid to work. It can fix anything. Listen, ain't nothing he can't fix, build, or put together. So he was that. I was like, wow, that's what that looks like.
Don't forget, cook, clean, sew.
There's nothing you can't do.
Tell her, reminder. Come on.
Yeah.
Wash. I can do her hair. I did her hair.
He did my locks. in the beginning. So
a musician and sing for, play for. Look,
don't even because I roll out the red carpet for you too. So don't even sit there. So he was that stability I never knew, right? But so that's kind of how we were healing for each other. So yeah,
you guys were healing for each other.
Yeah, but as a person going through domestic violence, it not realizing how the triggers are. It was a little tougher on my end.
If you could do this all over again, what would you do differently?
Who, me?
Let me start with you.
Yes.
Let me just.
Okay, so what I would do differently?
Yes.
Man, you know, that's the first time someone's ever asked me that.
Oh.
First of all, I would have not gotten married. I would have went and played football. I would have went to school, because all my life it was based upon me living to. So all of my friends, including my first wife, did not see 21. So our thing was do everything you could before you reach 21, because you may not see 21. Oh. So,
wow,
that was a neighborhood I lived in, wow. And so, I would have done everything based on seeing 30 or 40 or 50.
Wow.
You know, long term. I was doing all the short term things because we wasn't expected to. Nobody.
No fate.
Very, very, very few. And I've come across a few of them that lived to live past 21. So I would have done that very differently. And then that way I would have probably been a far better, much whole person for her when I met her. But, I remember writing God a letter because I felt like he didn't hear me. So I wrote him a letter, and I put the letter on top of the refrigerator. And in the letter, it said, God, I need your help. I need a new car, because she was killed in the car and they had just gave it back to me. And it was a hot mess. And I need a new place to live because I was being evicted because I didn't realize I hadn't been to work. I don't know what happened. Time just, I don't know. I lost track. But I remember hearing God say, you got to go and look for what you want. I said, but that's cool. I'll go look for a car. And I did. And I went to a huge dealership. And I remember pulling up and they saw the car and it had all the tape and fingerprint. Paint was missing because of the fingerprinting. I mean, this was a car that come out of the, what's that? It came out straight out the pound. But what's that movie? The TV show, crime scenes.
Oh.
And it looked just like that. And so the guys stood around and they were actually laughing and mocking the car. And I felt bad, and I started walking around. Nobody was coming to help me. And the guy finally came and I said, well, how much do you want for that car right there? And he said, oh, that's too much. You can't afford that. And I just kept walking. But another guy came and and he heard me. And I'm not sure what all I told him. But I left and went back home, and I sat there and I said, all right, I went and looked, I'm done. Remember him calling me and he said, Gene. And I said, yes, who's this? And he told me, and I said, yeah, I remember you. He said, when are you going to come and get your car, man? And I said, what are you talking about, man? You guys laughed at me and you guys told me I couldn't afford the car. And he said, man, I didn't laugh at you. He said, I heard you. He said, the car is approved. Are you coming to get it or not? And I said, man, I'm on my way. And I went and got it. No money. I didn't have a job.
Wow.
I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a dime. And I didn't know where my next meal was coming from.
But you got a car.
And
letter you put on the fridge. God, I need a car. He is able to do exceedingly and abundantly All we can ask them. Listen, amazing.
Yeah.
Shannon, what would you do different? You do.
I think I would educate myself more on this. You know, I wouldn't have got married right away. I would have asked him for me and him to really go through domestic violence counseling.
There is none.
I mean, what I mean by that is, how do I triggers, just something that I would have been more educated on domestic violence, even if it was pertaining to women, just no understanding.
Trauma.
Yeah. I would have been like, let's go through this, because through it, at least the first year or two, I went through trauma. And it wasn't that he was intentionally trying to do it. It was it's kind of like, you know, if a dog gets hit and it's wounded, or any animal, and you're going to help, they bite you, and you're like, why are you biting me? I'm trying to help you. And it's just the wound. They're protecting the wound. And so that's how I looked at it. So when we talk about this, I'm like, he was just protecting his wound. I'm trying to help. I'm just jumping, go happy. And it's like, wait, you keep biting me. Why are you biting me? So if I was to do something different, I would go back and re-educate myself to understand. So then now I know, okay,
how to be there for him, how to be more supportive.
Right. Instead
of hitting it, maybe.
Like when I'm helping you bite me, I'm ready to bite you back. Like, whoa, wait, hold up. Instead of, okay, hold on. He's hurting. Let me step back. Let me not go run and rescue, to be so quick to fix the wound, but just, there's got to be another way around. Does that make sense? So I would have educated myself a lot more.
Are the triggers gone? All triggers gone now? Gene?
I don't know. That's a good question.
They're better.
No, seriously, that's a good question, because you don't know until you know.
Well, so many times, but now when you feel like, do you know when you're being triggered? Okay, like I had a friend who, she called me all upset because the husband didn't pack the toothpaste in the bag. I mean, and she was all upset, and I'm like, okay, this is deeper than toothpaste. You cannot be this mad about toothpaste. And she just broke down crying, and she's like, you're right, this is more than toothpaste. So are you able to see, like, wait, this is a trigger. This is more than this. This is deeper than what's going on. Are you able to recognize your triggers now?
Yeah.
And to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm very honest to a fault. And I'm quick to say I'm sorry. I may not realize it at the moment, but when I do, I'm quick.
It's better.
I'm quick to say. But the thing I realized, the thing that God has helped me to realize was, because she would do a lot of the same things.
Meaning,
she would take me down the same paths.
You gotta be more specific, because it wasn't abuse. It was like the makeup or certain conversation we'll have, but it was never.
No, just certain things she would do. Like, for instance, she would. She had a lot of male friends. Now I'm trigger happy, you know. But the Lord would, one day I remember him telling me, put your seatbelt on, sit back, and just ride. And I was like, I don't even put my seatbelt on in the car. What are you talking about? Put my seatbelt. So I sat still, and it progressed. And I said, God, she's taking me down the same road. This is the same road. I don't know how you won't expect me to sit still. I ain't trying to go back. I remember him saying, sit tight. And something else happened. I said, okay, we're in the same neighborhood. We're going back to my old neighborhood. We don't want to go back to my old neighborhood, you know, because she was agitated by something, and it was agitating me. And he said, sit tight. I said, there it is. There it is. There it is. That's the old house. We done pulled up in front of the old house. Okay, here we go. It's on and cracking. And I remember she went to the door of this situation, and it was a total different outcome. Okay. And so what I learned from that was, it may be the same street. It may be the same neighborhood. It may be the exact same house. But there are two people there that live there now that didn't live there before.
Motives are different too. Motives.
And you've got to you've got to rethink how I do things. And that was a lesson I got out of there. Today is a new day. This is a different woman. She's not like any other woman I've ever been with. Okay, so she did the exact same thing. She's still not the same woman.
Right. So, her makeup because she like makeup. The other one wore makeup because she's trying to attract men. Same thing, different motive, different. Yeah.
And that
it was even down to, you know, the color of my hair. I've always worn my hair from when I was when my kids were little. I always wore red, and then there's times I changed blonde, but just red was my favorite color. And it was like, you know, why? What are you trying to attract? So it was just it was little small things that, you know, it, like you said, same concept, but wait, two different people.
Yeah.
And me not understanding how it was triggering, I'd fight back. I'd be like, because I want to wear my hair red. What is the problem? You know, not understanding how this is really hurting. You know, this really bothers him. I'm flaring back, but at the same time, I was like, okay, God, you got to help me, because I'm trying here, right? And I'm trying to be to love him the way you showed me to love him, and to love the man that you created.
But now, let me say this: because of her prior traumas, it made her aggressive on her side. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, two hurting people trying to love each other, and
the moral of the story: you got to get healed and deal with this stuff.
Right. And that's the beauty of it. That's been the beauty of it. Finding love after abuse, and experiencing love after abuse, and how we work.
What you guys do? You go out now and you speak and you help people
by being transparent. Yeah. We work so well together. It's amazing.
And so your book, give me the title of this book that helps to people finding love after abuse. What is the title of the book?
It's called Still I Rise.
Yes.
Shannon's book is called The Process.
Transitioning
to the original you. Yes. She is actually rewriting it, revamping, and she's really excited about the direction that the Lord has taken her in with this one. And I'm really excited for her. I have done Still I Rise, and it is basically my personal testimony, and it talks about the rise and fall and the rise again of Gene Mason, and how my wife helped me, how God used my wife to help me, and how God helped me, and just my personal triumphant moments. So,
you know what this teaches me? There is no cookie cutter way, because usually they say, oh, they don't, you know, two broken people don't need to come together, get whole first and then come together. But in this situation, people did come together, and you guys were there to help each other become whole, you know. So, and that will work for you. So you really got to listen to God on, what am I supposed to do? Is this somebody I'm supposed to get with and help heal? Or is this like, oh no, like this is a job strictly for Jesus?
You're not going to find a perfect, you're not that. I don't know why we're taught this perfect man or this perfect woman, this perfect fairy tale lifestyle. And so that's not true. Everybody's going to have something, a trigger or some,
trauma. Everybody's got trauma.
Whether it's the loss of, you marry someone, they might have lost their child, or you married someone that wasn't domestic violence, or you married someone that was maybe molested when they were a kid, or there's a trauma. It's just,
you got to
really asking God, how do I look? Who am I? And being that vessel. And I think that's what I had to be with him. It's like, okay, God, I have to be that vessel. I have to be that you're the hand, I'm the glove, to love on him, to show him, because he asked God. And right before we met, he said God showed him that in a dream, there was a line of women on here. And God said, you can have any one of them
he did.
That you want, and they'll bring you your best gifts. Or you could have me, because he asked God, what does your love really feels like?
No.
What is it?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay, well, tell the story.
I just said, God, I want to know what love is.
Yeah.
And I was talking to two very rich ladies at the time, and he told me to cut them loose. And this was in a dream. And in the dream, there was this line, and it was every nationality, every shape, size, and color. And God was on the left, and all them women was on the right. And I was walking down the line. I was looking at him. He said, pick, choose. And I was looking at him. I was like, all of these women. And in the dream, I reluctantly chose God. And I said, all right, I'll choose you.
Right after that, we met.
And right after that, we met. I woke up. The funny thing is, I woke up in my bed. I was sitting up. All of my sheets, all of my blankets, and all of my pillows were on the floor.
He was wrestling for God.
I must have been. That was a trip to me. That was a trip, because I know I didn't want to give that up. You know what I'm saying? I was coming into myself, and I was working out, I was like, had my swell on. So I think my wife, she didn't, I don't think she acknowledged her traumas. I think she felt like, well, I didn't expect. And so I think there was a lot of, because even when we were dating, he could call and they would always argue, and he would call and he he didn't want nothing. He just wanted to see if he could still get next to her, and I would tell her, hang up, that's irrelevant. And he would call him. And I think, and I saw that she was traumatized by him. And I saw that she was also traumatized by her mom. So,
childhood trauma. Yeah.
Still to this day, she could call you.
No, I'm better now.
Oh, much better. But I wanted to protect her from that. You know what I'm saying? So there was trauma on both ends, not the same spectrum.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what it was. It wasn't the same spectrum. Again, when you say abuse, for women see women being beat, this, that's what you look at as abuse. You know what I mean? I did have childhood trauma. Mom was very verbal abusive, but then again, you always say that's how mamas is. That's how big mamas are. So you don't realize that it's
right.
Abuse, because again, as when you hear abuse from a kid, mama was beating them, blacking their eye, cutting them. Mom was on drugs, drinking. Mama had men running in and out. So the way abuse has been labeled, it has actually kept people, it's handicapped. It's like,
and bond, to it, like sensitized to abuse. What's really abuse? We laugh and we're like, oh, that's just how it is. That's
right.
Really,
yeah.
That could come out of this. Anybody watching this, stop minimizing and going into what's going on. Let's label what it is. It's abuse. It's
abuse. Exactly. Let's stop labeling this. Let's stop looking at abuse as a man beating a woman.
When a woman is in public and she's talking about her man, and he's standing right there. That's abuse. She's
degrading
him, castrating him in public. You know, that's abuse. That's abuse. So when he snap, crackles, and pop, you wonder why. Well, he got tired of you abusing him. You know,
being a narcissist.
He needs to snap, crackle, and leave, and she needs to snap, crackle, and go, but not hurt each other. You know, if somebody's doing something wrong to you and you don't like it, leave.
The Bible says you got to do this, this, and this, not to get a divorce, right? So
yeah, that's tough.
They don't talk about it. They don't talk about abuse to that level. They don't teach it. So you don't know the signs of it. You know what I'm saying? You don't know that, oh, I'm being abused and it's okay to go. They won't. I've never heard it brought up in ministry.
Yeah, certain churches do. They do talk about it, right? Not all of them, but
yeah.
And I think that once you start to get abused, there needs to be a conversation. We need to work on this. If we can't work on this, then we got to do something. But I can't live like this. I can't be abused the rest of my life, because that's not good. I don't think that's God's purpose for us to be in any. He came that we would have life and life more abundantly, and that is not the abundant life. We're not going to be happy all the time, but we definitely shouldn't be abused and beat up, and having to be arrested in the police station and protection orders and welts and abuse. Like, that's not purpose. It's not God's purpose.
I'll say this real quick. So we went to a conference. This tripped me out. I think it was our very first conference. She was so pretty. She was a pastor. She's up there telling her story. And she said her husband, he would stand up there and preach and go home and beat her.
Yeah, heard it.
I'm sitting there looking at her like, wait, what? She's a pastor's wife. But she never said nothing. They never brought it up. He'd stand up, preach the word, then he'd go home and beat her. Remember her? She was beautiful. And I don't know what, there's something that happened. She said she can't do it no more. And she came out about it. But it was just the thought of, wow.
Gotta talk. So Gene, what is your last thing you want to say to men out there that may have been experiencing or are experiencing this, and maybe they're out of it and they're still traumatized, and it's hard for them to move forward?
Well, that's the golden question. I want to say, you're not going to be viewed as soft. Men have this really deep conviction about looking soft amongst their peers, amongst other men, and I get it. I mean, especially if you find yourself in a jail situation, you don't want to look and appear soft. Because then you're victimized amongst your peers. It's just crazy. So I understand why guys don't want to come forth. I understand why guys don't want to make mention of this. I get it. So what I want to say is, once we finish our project, House of David, you will not be considered soft. You will be respected. You will be honored. You will be revered. And you will have the opportunity to be healed.
Let's talk about the House of David, because I saw your website, House of David. It looks amazing. Let everyone know about the House of David, and hopefully House of David will be all over the country.
Thank you. The House of David is our project. We are building in 3 phases. First phase is for men, second phase is for women, the third phase is for young people, children who have suffered domestic violence, abuse, or suffering. It is 12 tiny homes. We didn't want to put them in a big shelter or a little shelter, because a bunch of hurting men in a shelter, might as well put them in prison. They're just going to hurt each other. didn't, or and I don't want them to feel like they're punished and feel like they're in a cell, because they just have one room. So I want to have their own house. But I don't want it to be too small or they feel like it's a cell and they're being punished. But I don't want it to be too big and they feel all alone. So we're doing that in that regard so that men will be able to come together, get the counseling, group counseling, individual counseling, receive the healing, have a home with an address so that if they have children, a child can come and stay with them. There are 2 bedrooms as well. And a judge will be more reluctant to give them those rights, those visitation rights, or take the child home, however that works. And so that is our goal and our gift to our men, because when I was removed from my home physically by the police, I had nowhere to go. And I was in a city where I had no family. And the allegations showed me who were my friends and who weren't. And so I didn't have a place to go or I had a place to sleep, and I slept in the car. And so that's what this stems out of. I want you to have a place to go, and you don't have to worry about paying for it. It's free.
That's what I was going to ask.
You don't have to worry about trying to get a job and make the rent. And no, that's free. Now you got to take care of your utilities and your water. I still need you to be a man, but I want to supply you with a place to live, a place to put your head. Don't have to worry. Women are not allowed there, so you don't have to worry about anybody showing up or waiting for you out in the parking lot. There ain't gonna be none of that.
So when will House of David be complete?
We're hoping 2024. We're trying to raise the money now. We have, as you see, we have the architecture, we've got the contractors, we've got the real estate agents, we even got an opportunity for supplies to be donated. We just need the funding. We're trying to find. If you know of any grant writers that can help us, that would be great. That's our holdup right now.
That grant money, funding, investors, things like that. Okay. Awesome. This has been great. Now we're gonna end with the music. Let's talk about this music. So you guys, all that they've been through has birthed books, music, motivational workshops, and more. Let's talk about the music.
Okay. It's just all jazz, saxophone, all of that. My wife and I, we actually, and even my daughter even has a song on there.
It's just all jazz, relaxing,
it's
chill,
smooth, something to minister to the broken, to the hurt.
Yeah.
Each
song is about a story.
Well, Still I Rise, each song is about a story. Turn Right at the Moon. Yeah.
So Still I Rise has a book and it has a CD. And so the music corresponds with the chapters of the book. So you can kind of feel, it takes you through the journey of what he was experiencing. And
it's more.
Okay, and let's give the social media tag so everybody knows where to go to get this book that has music to it, you guys. What's the social media tags? Let's go.
So you can find Still I Rise on Amazon.com under Gene Autry Mason, the second Still I Rise. The CDs, the Still I Rise CD you can find on YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Apple, on all music social medias.
And but they can access give me your website.
So
Still I Rise.
Still I Rise.
STILLRRZ.org.
And you can
so it's STILLRZ.org.
You can see the music, the books,
Yes.
the story background to their mission. You can see about the House of David. The blueprint looks wonderful, and the little tiny houses.
Our architect, Kurt, is an amazing guy, amazing designer, and our contractors as well. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. So, yes, and also booking information. If you want them to come out to your church, your city, wherever, and hear their story, they are amazing speakers and mentors, and stay connected with them. StillIRise.org. Let's see what we're going to do. I want to hear more about House of David and how I can help out with that. And then
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Pretty excited about it.
Love grassroots projects.
Oh, before we go, every year, for part of Still I Rise, we do an event. We're debating on next year, but it's called Still I Rise. It's an all-white party. We did it last
2 years.
And it's an all-white party. Great food, live jazz music. Actually, my husband plays in a jazz band, so they usually perform the last 2 years. We'll have artists come up, and it's just a really nice. It's just a really nice time. And it's usually something we have every year. So when you go on the website, you'll see it for the upcoming year, and that's to help raise for the house. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Usually in April. We have it every April.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. This has been
for having us.
Informative. And out there, guys and girls, don't let nobody abuse you. You don't have to. There is life, hope, and happiness after. Don't let the devil tell you or nobody else that this is it. This is all that God has for me. This is all life has for me, because that is not true. As you can see here with Gene and Shannon, there is a rainbow after the storm, always. So keep your head up. Remember, God loves you and he has so much for you, and your ladder will be greater. Till next time, take care, you guys.